even now, as something subtle but undeniable rearranges itself inside you, as if the air around your soul is being recalibrated, there is a truth you are finally ready to hear. A truth most people never live long enough, deep enough, or honestly enough to understand. This was never just a season you were surviving. It was a divine construction zone you were living inside. A sacred work site where every delay, every unanswered prayer, every tear soaked into the pillow, every night you felt forgotten was not evidence of absence but evidence of architecture. Because destiny was being built around you, not rushed, not guessed at, but engineered with precision. And what you thought was stagnation was actually scaffolding rising quietly while you weren't looking. You believed the breakthrough would arrive softly, almost unnoticed. But in the unseen realm, it has been anything but quiet. Announcements have been made, permissions granted, doors unsealed, blueprints unrolled, assignments dispatched, all with one purpose: to escort you forward without allowing the residue of who you were to contaminate who you are becoming. You asked for answers, but what is approaching is larger than information. It is an internal upgrade, an expansion of perception, emotional capacity, discernment, identity, spiritual hearing, and inner posture. Because you are not just being given clarity, you are being given the version of yourself capable of carrying it without breaking. This is why life felt heavy, tight, pressurized, uncomfortable, as though you were outgrowing your own skin. The previous version of you could not sustain the weight of what was assigned to your future, so you were stretched, pruned, refined, taught how to breathe in deeper dimensions, prepared to stand in rooms that once would have crushed you. Just like gold is not placed in fire because it lacks worth, but because it possesses it, you were not being punished, rejected, or ignored. You were being refined, weighed, proven. You were never waiting for the breakthrough. The breakthrough was waiting for you to mature into the frequency where receiving it would not cost you your soul. That is why certain relationships fell away without explanation. Why old definitions of success stopped fitting. Why shallow spaces began to suffocate you. Why approval lost its flavor. Why being liked no longer felt like nourishment because your hunger was being reprogrammed. Where others crave attention, you were trained to crave assignment. Where others crave applause, you were trained to crave alignment. Where others rush for elevation, you were taught the gravity of divine timing. Oh, and even now the atmosphere is charged with a quiet proclamation. Something has shifted. Something has turned. Something ancient has clicked into place. And the inner calendar of your life is flipping to a page written in a language only purpose can read. You are entering the chapter where your prayers no longer echo unanswered, but begin responding back to you. Where what you chased begins gravitating toward you. Where what once ran from you now recognizes you. Because your internal frequency has changed. You are no longer operating from survival. You are stepping into assignment, into ownership, into embodied identity. You are being recognized now, not because you asked to be seen, but because your spirit finally sounds like the person you were always meant to become. And as the next door opens, quietly, steadily, irreversibly, you will not enter wounded, defensive, or shrinking, but crowned, clarified, fortified, no longer asking why this is happening to you, but understanding what is being done through you. Because destiny does not prioritize comfort. It prioritizes completion, and you are being completed in ways you don't yet have language for. And hear this clearly now. Stop interpreting difficulty as abandonment. The level you are stepping into requires emotional intelligence that can remain steady in unfamiliar territory. Spiritual discipline that can hear instruction even in silence, and discernment that knows the difference between seasonal discomfort and genuine attack. Much of what you thought was destruction was actually careful pruning. What walked away was not rejection, but subtraction. Protecting your future from distraction. What closed was not punishment, but prevention. Shielding you from paths that could not hold the weight of what you carry. The loneliness you endured was not exile, but consecration. A quiet training where you learned the sound of your own spirit without interference. Every moment you believed timing was off, preparation was already ahead of you. Nothing was wasted, not a tear, not a delay, not a night you sat convincing yourself to keep breathing. Consistency, not perfection, was what was required, and you remained. You stayed. You stood when faith felt thin, when strength had to be borrowed from memory, when quitting would have made sense. And because you did not leave the field, permission has been granted. The power of this moment is not simply that doors are opening, but that you can walk through them without shrinking. The version of you that apologized for existing, dimmed to keep others comfortable, over-explained to those who could never understand your assignment, that version has finished its work. You are stepping into a self that can occupy space without asking permission, because you now carry citizenship in territory you once only visited in dreams. This next phase is not about effort. It is about placement. You are taught to grind, chase, exhaust yourself, prove your worth, scramble for validation, but you are being re-educated now. What is meant for you has an address, and it does not require begging to arrive. It requires alignment. Sometimes receiving demands more faith than striving. Striving says you must force life to move. Faith says what is yours cannot miss you. You are being shifted from chasing into attracting, from proving into embodying, from hoping into knowing. Your presence is becoming the message. Your peace is becoming the testimony. Your stability is becoming the evidence. When you walk, something declares itself without words. When purpose marks a life, the environment has no choice but to adjust. This elevation is not about ego. It is about responsibility. What is being released through you is not only for you. Other lives are attached to your obedience. Other breakthroughs depend on your courage. You were opposed not because of your past, but because of your potential. Resistance shows up where threat exists. The storm came because you were close. Close to clarity, to influence, to maturity, to becoming dangerous to everything that tried to keep you small. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still stretching, still becoming, which is proof that something greater has been backing you the entire time. Now you must expand your internal definition of what is possible. Small thinking cannot survive where you are going. Doubt cannot ride with you. You cannot enter this chapter as someone waiting to be chosen. You must walk as someone who realizes you were chosen long before you were ready. You are not being asked to try harder. You are being asked to believe wider. Belief is the passport. Comfort zones do not exist where miracles operate. You are stepping into a version of yourself that does not arrive quietly, but arrives complete. And the world has not yet witnessed what happens when someone who carried pain without becoming bitter, who endured loss without losing tenderness, who was broken but not erased, humbled but not humiliated, doubted but did not quit, finally recognizes that they were the breakthrough all along. That realization alters everything. That is the moment you are being escorted toward. And that moment is now. Pause here. This is not accidental. This is not background noise. This interruption is intentional. You were drawn to this because something inside you has been asking questions you could not articulate. The nights you cried quietly, the mornings you stood on borrowed strength, the prayers you whispered because shouting felt too risky, none of it went unheard. Every whisper landed. Every tear mattered. You were not overlooked. You were not forgotten. You were guided here because confirmation was waiting for you. You wondered if your effort meant anything, if patience would ever pay off, if endurance would lead somewhere real. Hear this. You reached the place you were meant to reach. You moved through storms designed to stop you and refused to surrender. You stayed when others left. You advanced when strength was drained. The fire did not consume you, it clarified you. This moment is not random. It is the harvest of your endurance. What felt like opposition was shaping you. What felt like delay was equipping you. You were never being pushed away. You were being prepared. Every unseen battle mattered. Every quiet collapse mattered. Every night you questioned your worth was recorded, not as weakness, but as proof that you kept going. When opportunities slipped away, when doors closed abruptly, when others seemed to advance while you stood still, none of it was denial. It was timing. What would have crushed you then is now ready to bless you. Some people had to exit because their presence could not coexist with your future. Some betrayals were shields you didn't recognize at the time. Even doubt did not disqualify you. You were sustained when you felt numb, carried when you felt empty, guarded when you felt exposed. You are not a failure. You never were. What you thought was falling apart was resilience being forged. What you thought was invisibility was protection. You were seen every time you smiled publicly and collapsed privately. Strength was deposited in you one morning at a time. Laughter returned when you thought it was gone forever. Nothing escaped notice. Now understand this deeply. The waiting chapter has closed. The door ahead is not fragile, not temporary, not accidental. It was carved into your story before you knew how to ask for it. You do not need to force it open. It is already unlocked. What opens now will not be taken from you. What emerges will be visible. What manifests will be undeniable. Quiet victories are giving way to public confirmation. This is your turn. Provision replaces anxiety. Peace replaces noise. Clarity replaces confusion. Restoration replaces loss. Healing moves through places you assumed would remain scarred. Joy returns, not shallow or fragile, but rooted, steady, unstealable. What you sowed in tears now rises in evidence. What grew underground now breaks the surface. You stayed when many quit. You endured when retreat would have been easier. And now the overflow responds. What was hidden becomes seen. What was delayed reveals perfect timing. This is not a moment, it is a beginning. The story ahead will no longer be defined by waiting, but by fulfillment. Lift your head, step forward. The door stands open. What moves now cannot be stopped. And as you step deeper into this unfolding, there's another layer heaven is revealing to you now. Something even more intimate, more stabilizing, more anchoring than the breakthrough itself, because elevation without grounding would fracture you. and heaven refuses to promote you into instability. What is happening now is not just expansion outward but alignment inward, a settling of your spirit into a posture that no longer shakes when circumstances shift. Because the next chapter requires a nervous system that can hold peace even while power increases. This is why you have been learning restraint, silence, discernment, why your reactions slowed down, why your emotional reflexes softened but sharpened at the same time, why you no longer rush to defend yourself or explain your heart to people who are not assigned to understand it. You are being taught sovereignty, the kind that does not need permission, validation, or applause to stand tall. Before, you survived by adapting to environments. Now, environments will begin adapting to you. Before, you read rooms carefully to make yourself fit. Now, rooms will rearrange because of what you carry. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. And alignment is quiet, steady, immovable. You may have noticed that even your prayers have changed. You don't beg the way you used to. You don't panic in the same way. You don't spiral as deeply. There is a strange calm underneath the uncertainty now. A sense that even when you don't understand what is happening, you trust that it is happening for you, not to you. That calm is not emotional numbness. It is authority settling in. It is the sound of someone who has walked through enough storms to know that thunder does not mean destruction. It means movement. Heaven has been teaching you how to listen beneath the noise, how to sense direction before details appear, how to move without needing the full map. Because where you are going, clarity comes in steps, not in full explanations. And you are finally okay with that. This is also why the past can no longer pull you the way it used to. Old memories may still visit, but they no longer dominate. Old wounds may still ache, but they no longer define. Old mistakes may still whisper, but they no longer have authority. You are not denying what happened. You are simply no longer living there. The grip of yesterday has loosened because your spirit has moved forward. And heaven is intentionally closing emotional loops that once kept you cycling, revisiting, re-explaining, reliving. That chapter has said everything it needed to say. You have learned what you needed to learn. You are not required to bleed from it anymore. What comes next will test your ability to receive without suspicion. This is important. When someone has endured long seasons of struggle, ease can feel unsafe, peace can feel unfamiliar, blessing can feel like a setup for disappointment. But heaven is healing that reflex in you now. You are learning that not every good thing is temporary. Not every open door hides a trap. Not every moment of joy needs to be braced against loss. You are allowed to enjoy what arrives. You are allowed to rest inside answered prayers. You are allowed to trust consistency. This is part of your maturation. Being able to hold blessing without bracing for impact, and understand this clearly. The favor coming into your life will not always announce itself as fireworks. Much of it will arrive disguised as positioning. Conversations that seem casual will reroute your future. Invitations that feel ordinary will unlock access. Decisions that feel small will echo loudly later. You are entering a season where discernment matters more than effort, where alignment matters more than speed, where saying no will be just as powerful as saying yes. You will feel an internal check before certain moves, a quiet knowing that something is off even if it looks good on the surface. Trust that. That is not fear. It is wisdom you earned. You are also being repositioned relationally. Not everyone who celebrates you now will be able to walk with you later. Not everyone who helped you survive will be able to help you steward abundance. This does not make them bad. It makes seasons real. You are no longer meant to explain your evolution or shrink it to preserve familiarity. The ones assigned to your next level will recognize you without translation. They won't need convincing. They will feel resonance, not confusion. And you will feel relief, not obligation. There will be moments ahead when you are tempted to rush, to move before clarity fully settles, because momentum can feel intoxicating after long stagnation. But remember, speed without direction still leads to exhaustion. You are not late, you are not behind. You are exactly on pace. What is unfolding has been calibrated to your nervous system, your emotional capacity, your spiritual stamina. You are not being thrown into deep water unprepared. You have been learning how to breathe underwater this whole time. And as this continues, you will notice something subtle but powerful. Your inner dialogue will become kinder. The voice that once criticized will soften. The pressure to perform will loosen. The need to prove will fade. You will begin speaking to yourself the way you once wished someone else had spoken to you. This is not self-help. It is healing. And a healed inner world creates a stable outer life. You are not just becoming successful, you're becoming safe to yourself. That safety is the foundation of everything that lasts. So when moments of fear still arise, and they will, do not panic. Fear does not mean you are doing something wrong. It often means you are standing at the edge of something larger than your previous experience. Let fear be information, not instruction. Let it show you where growth is happening, not where retreat is required. You are not fragile, you are seasoned. You have survived uncertainty before, and now you are meeting opportunity with wisdom instead of desperation. This is the chapter where you stop asking for signs and start recognizing patterns. Where you stop chasing reassurance and start trusting resonance. Where you stop waiting for permission and start moving with quiet confidence. The ground under you is stable now. The shaking has passed. The foundation has set. What rises next will not collapse easily. And even if you cannot yet see the full picture, even if the details are still forming, even if the next step feels both exciting and intimidating, let this truth anchor you. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into coherence. Everything that once felt scattered is aligning. Everything that once felt delayed is converging. Everything that once felt broken is integrating. You are not becoming someone new, you are becoming someone true. And the world will feel that difference the moment you walk into the room.